No ceremony was done, just my bride price payment. When I entered the home, then I realized he was still married and has 3 grown-up children close to my age.
Heart Talk with Lydia.
Welcome to another episode of Heart Talk with Lydia. I got into a wrong marriage because I was misguided by the person I lived with and called a mother. I was taken into this home at age 6. My auntie had just newly married and needed someone she could send on little errands around the house. I was taken from my parents who lived in the village and brought to town, still in the same state. My aunt and her husband were quite nice, even though not so financially buoyant. I was seen through primary and secondary school as part of the agreement made by my parents. I helped her raise all her kids from the first to the last. As a matter of fact, I was called the eldest sister of the house because of how we related. Nobody could really tell if I was a maid because of how I was treated and accepted. Fast forward to when I finished secondary school. They could no longer cater for my educational needs as they had other children's responsibilities to take care of, and they were just civil servants. I was encouraged to return home. Maybe my parents will be able to afford to further my education. For the first time in many years, I visited home and reconnected with my biological parents. They barely recognized me as I had grown into a woman. It was an emotional moment for my biological mom, my aunt, and I. After a few years had passed, I finally gained admission into a polytechnic, and in my second year, I met a guy. He seemed from a well-to-do background. He was a core member. He's Yoruba. We loved each other so much. This will be the first time I will fall in love, and I fell so hard. He told me he wants to see my people and establish his intentions before he rounds up his 1 year of service. Because of how close I am to my auntie, I tell her everything. So I quickly informed her that someone is interested in me and I loved him too. Then she asked, "Where is he from?" And I said, "Yoruba." Then she screamed, "Blood of Jesus." You cannot marry that far. Our people don't go that far. What if something happens to you? How will you return home? I didn't give a second thought to it. My auntie is right, I said to myself, and then I ended things with him. It was quite a devastating experience for me because of how much I loved him. He waited an extra year post NYSC in my village, trying to convince me to reconsider him. My response was no, because my aunt's words were final. Wow. I moved on with my life, struggling hard through poly. Did a lot of farming to support my education. To a point, my body frame started tilting towards that of a man. In my final year, I met another man. He was quite elderly, maybe in his late 30s to early 40s. He came with so much energy to marry me. He was a civil servant and also sweet-tongued. I never liked him. When the pressure became much, I told him to go and see my auntie and her husband. I can't say what the discussion was, but I could tell from the sudden interest my aunt had on the man. She started convincing me. I felt he was too old and I knew barely anything about him. Because I loved my auntie so much, I decided to agree to marry him. I just felt she can't be wrong. Wow. No ceremony was done, just my bride price payment. When I entered the home, then I realized he was still married and has 3 grown-up children close to my age. This was quite devastating for me as a young girl. I was about 26 at the time and wasn't ready for this. Nothing prepared me for this shock. I related to my auntie in tears, informing her of my discovery. She was angry at him, calling him a liar and a wicked man. But she said, I was already married and cannot divorce because God hates it. I had to live with him in a 1-bedroom apartment with his children, making 5 people. There was hate everywhere, as though a small girl had come to take their father away. Shortly after I married him, I took him and gave birth to twins. Then I began to see many characters in him I never knew existed. He was a cunning man and a swindler. He duped people of their money and lived a life of debts. We had debt collectors come to our house every now and then, demanding for their money. At few times, they took properties from the home to make up for their money. The list was endless. At the end of his life, we had 4 kids together. He died 2 years ago, plunging us into more poverty. I had to return back to the village to my parents' home with just my 4 kids after 12 years of marriage. I have returned back to farming to fend for my kids, and I am in complete misery. I think I made a mistake to have listened to my auntie. Looking back, I think marrying the core member would have been better for me. Please pray for me. First of all, I think the major problem you had was decision making. You put that power of making decisions, critical decisions that concerns you, into the hands of other people. And this also goes out to every other person who is out there. There are certain critical decisions about your life and your future that you have to make yourself. You do not have to put that power in the hand of any other person. Yes, it's good to take advice. Yes, it's good to seek advice from people who you think are older than you or more experienced than you, but there are certain critical decisions that affect your life and your future that you need to make yourself, and no one has to make that decision for you. Then secondly, you walked into a marriage. The man was already married. He already had 3 children. You had not recovered from that shock, and you went ahead to have more children for him. I think you should have done better in that aspect. Then thirdly, my advice to you is look around you. What works for you? Because the deed has been done. You already married the man. You already have 4 children. And these kids need to be taken care of. So you have to acquire a skill that helps you take care of these children. Farming is not going to be enough. I pray for you that you're able to go through this phase of your life. I pray for you that you're able to raise these children well, that God helps you through this phase of your life. And I pray that you find all the help that you need. So we have come to the end of this episode of Heart Talk with Lydia. If you have any concerns, you have any stories you want to share, slide into my DM and let's talk.